Yeah.
And then you're gonna see 3 dots to the right.
Yeah, so live on Facebook.
Now, hang on, when you get there, when you go into Facebook, make sure that you click to show it through the, what?
Continue as what?
Continue as you, but make sure that you select down farther on the page where it says share to, and you're gonna share to the Puerto Rico CPI page, not your personal page.
Oh. It doesn't show me. Okay.
If that doesn't work, then make me the host and I'll do it through mine.
It doesn't work on me, it doesn't show me that. Will it deposit me to the group if I'm just posting?
Yeah, go ahead and make me the host and I should be able to put it through on our end.
No, let me see. Oh gosh.
Go ahead and stop the live stream.
Stop live stream.
Okay.
I'm making you host.
Okay.
Jessica. More first. There you go.
Okay.
Here you go.
Okay, we're getting ready to go live here. And Anatolia, you can feel free to take it away. Almost there. Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day number 2 of the Puerto Rico Collaborative Piano Institute 2021 and the afternoon panel discussion. Today, we have some really, I'm very excited. We have some great guests. This is the panel Makers and Shakers in Musical Arts. The inspiration, the ingenuity, the innovation, the entrepreneurship, multicultural collaboration in Latin America, the Caribbean, and the US. And all these artists that make that possible. We have some of them here invited today. We will be exploring incredible ways by which artists nowadays, in this day and age, in this pandemic, almost couple of years now, have found to be innovative and inspiring and enable and ways that they have discovered to produce and advance the musical arts, enrich their communities, create opportunities for themselves, for their audiences, for other musicians, and explore new ways of presenting music while nurturing underserved communities, exploring their rich and multicultural heritage, and channel their creativity and artistic vision. The objective of this panel discussion is to feature, to elevate, to celebrate artistic endeavors that are in the service of social justice, arts education, professional development, community outreach, and artistic excellence and innovation. In other words, I'm showcasing you, all of you, my dear panelists. And I would like to introduce each one of you. Just give me a sec here because I'm having a problem with my, oh yes, I got it. Having a problem with the screen. I will start with Maria Gabriela Alvarado, a modern Baroque and a flutist, a modern Baroque flutist and educator, a very talented, very driven, empathetic, and dedicated performer and educator, passionate about teaching and about bringing classical music and access to quality music education to every child, regardless of their socioeconomic status. A creative, innovative, resourceful, and multifaceted young artist and presenter and entrepreneur, founder of the flute quintet in Radiance that has aimed to shake up the traditional concert model and kind of through teaching artistry as we continue to as the ensemble continues to explore new ways to engage the audiences. And also she's the founder of an early music ensemble, Amaranti. I will ask her a little bit about that later. a chamber music ensemble dedicated to bringing music to diverse audiences across the US. Gabi, I just have to say that your lecture recital was wonderful with Ilana. And it was just something very special, and it showed exactly who you are and what you're striving for. As you celebrated the horribly neglected and discarded, yet such wonderful works by women composers for flute and piano, it was a truly special recital, in my opinion, and by sharing the life struggles of these women in this lecture recital, you made it much more personal, making those stories matter, their lives matter, and inform our understanding of their music. We'll talk, hopefully you'll talk a little more about that. Let me not forget to say that Gabi is a newly appointed manager of community and patron engagement with the Sphinx organization. She'll be moving to Detroit soon, and from Dallas, right? Okay, then we'll move to Anyango Yargo Davenport. Excellent, award-winning violinist, dedicated teacher, a wonderful pedagogue and conductor. I know her personally, and I've worked with her, so I can vouch about that. A wonderful arts advocate and administrator, health clinician, proponent of diversity in the arts. She's currently assistant professor of violin and coordinator of the violin and chamber music at the Pontifical Javier Ana University of Bogota in Colombia, as well as artistic director, soloist, and co-program curator for the organization Color of Music Festival Virtuosi, where she's also a member of the festival artistic committee. She serves as summer faculty in quite a few places, one of which is the University of North Texas, where we met, the summer string program. And as a pedagogue, musician, and health clinician, and proponent of diversity in the arts, she's regularly invited to give masterclasses, recitals, talks, and panel discussions at leading research universities. She's an Eastman grad, so yeah, you know. And she'll talk to us about her endeavors in just a minute. Fabiana Gonzalez, wonderful mezzo-soprano. Also somebody I met at UNT, a superb voice, an exceptional intellect, an active performer, and a specialist in early music repertoire, and also a very experienced and sought-after choral singer and Baroque soloist. She's an active, dedicated, resourceful vocal pedagogue, and she has been developing a truly special and engaging and well-rounded approach to support and facilitate classical vocal training from the point of reference of the student's cultural background, meaning the tradition, the language, the level they come from. And she does that through the tradition of bolero song, and she'll tell us about it, I hope, in a minute. I don't want to give too much away because she has much more accurate things to say. She's an active performer in Puerto Rico, dedicated to her craft, making Baroque music, but also the art of bel canto accessible to wider audiences in Puerto Rico. She teaches voice, vocal pedagogy at the University of Puerto Rico and at the San Juan Children's Choir. She has concertized all over Europe and beyond. And she'll tell us a little bit of different things in a little bit. Maestro Luis Marin, a graduate of Berklee College of Music, prolific, sought-after jazz performer and maestro. During his 30 years on the music scene, he has worked with such talents as big jazz and salsa icons, Andy Montañez, Feliciano, Gilberto Santa Rosa, so many more. I mean, please check his bio, it's incredible. Okay, Luis, he has released 3 CD albums already. If I'm not mistaken, Luis, you can correct me in a minute if I've missed something. I particularly like the third one, the one showcasing his talent and magical trip of diverse musical influences, exciting and introspective rhythms, and heartfelt melodic and harmonic messages from the heart, as he says in his bio. For many years, he served as a department chair, piano jazz professor, ensemble and big band director of the Conservatory of Music in Puerto Rico. He is a sought-after clinician and pianist in popular idioms, jazz, and Latin American music idioms, sharing his knowledge, his expertise, and his humor with music students in the US and Latin America. Did I forget somebody? Well, our Jessica, everybody knows, Jessica Kebby is our director of the Puerto Rico Collaborative Piano Institute. She'll be joining us as well today. And I will be also introducing Dr. Patricio Molina, who is in New Jersey and New York Conservatory of the Arts, very special young musician as well, who could not be physically here today, but I had a chance to interview a couple of days ago. Before I pass the conversation on to you, I'd like to start with that video of him. I won't play the whole thing, it's a little bit too long. I'll put it on the chat or on our Facebook later. But just to get us started with our subject matter of the day. Let me see. Just a minute. Where is it? Here it is. Share. And okay. Ready. Is it playing? Okay. Is it coming? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural Puerto Rico Collaborative Piano Institute.
You have to be unmuted for the video to play.
Is there a problem? You cannot hear him?
You
Yeah,
have
check.
you have to be unmuted for the video to play.
Okay.
Be sure to check.
I thought that was unmuted. That's what I was trying to do, but I didn't.
Just be
Okay.
sure to, Anatolia, be sure to check the chat frequently.
Perspective and a multicultural approach to classical music. An artist with a mission and a vision. Welcome, Dr. Patricio Molina.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. Wow, I'm very impressed with that person that you introduced. So I'm honored to be here.
You are an impressive artist, and
thank you. I'm honored to be part of this. So thank you so much.
Aside, we're all looking forward to your presentation, especially me. We discussed a little bit about our connections. I'm going to go a little bit ahead. You can take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself through the projects that define you, the things, the values, the dreams, the goals that define you as a person, as a citizen of this country, of the world, and as a musician.
Well, that's a very complex question because music is very much tied to my persona as a whole. So it's like kind of describing my whole life. What is my there's a different aspects to I have different missions depending on what kind of activity I have in my life, as a father, as a husband, as a musician, as a teacher. And I feel like the music is kind of like that too. In some cases, my mission as a musician is to provide a service of a little bit of entertainment, to uplift people's hearts, to provide, a disconnect of all the difficulties of life. And that could be one of the missions at one point. But that's not the only mission. There's other missions too. And in some cases, I would say that my mission is to enhance or to entertain the intellect. which is not really, well, there's also a little bit of entertainment to that, but it's a little bit of the easy entertainment, but more more sophisticated, more. So then, I think in other cases, the mission is to express an emotion, feeling, and for me, I'm very much tied to my Latin American heritage and my Syrian and Arabic heritage. So in that case, it's not really entertaining. It's not really entertaining the intellectual part, but it's going back to the roots, and celebrating that and showing that to celebrating the roots through music.
Well, there's something to be said too about, we very often separate the intellect from the emotional world, the intellectual from the emotional world. I personally don't think that they are that separated. Because depth of emotion also signals adventurous and deep spirit, like looking for answers to questions, looking for solace to pain. And you are one of these people that combines a cultural heritage that that is emotionally loaded on both sides, I would say, passionate, deep, and with a very, very, very unique and very deep history of people, of turmoil, and also success, of triumph and resilience. And I feel that listening to your music, that's what I hear. That is my again.
Wow, what a compliment.
That is my take coming from a kind of a similar heritage. But I think that there's something to be said about how much we can put through our emotional world, we can put into our intellect. And I look at that because it's in your interest.
But that's true. That's true. I agree with you. There's things are very emotional. There's also they're intellectual. They're related.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. The Syrian and Latin American culture is very distinct.
How do you have it? Anyway, Patricio, I would like to ask you, what are some of the most important projects that you produced and participated and fulfilled or are in the process of fulfilling? Some projects never get fulfilled, which is going. In the last 5 years, some of those little spots of your intellect and emotional world that you would like to highlight today in this specific conversation.
So there was I co-founded a foundation called Notes for Growth, and just last month we sent the third shipment of pianos to Chile. That's in totally 35 pianos, including 2 Steinways. We restored a beautiful, beautiful Steinway in Chile. So we took a lot of donations of pianos in this area, that unwanted pianos, and we sent them to Chile where they're very much needed. So I'm very proud of the work that has been done, and a lot of foundations and students and children have benefited from these pianos over there. So that's on the administration part.
Yeah.
Well, also, as the director of the conservatory at the New York School of the Arts, I'm very attached to this program called the Nurturing Program that we started. So my program is the conservatory program, which is high level, very intensive, very difficult to get in. But I noticed that there was a lack of diversity in the program that needed to be addressed, and I thought that starting with a nurturing program from a very early age, and giving the instruments when students need them, even the access to the and also teaching what it takes from an early age to not only the students but also the people that are around the students, so that so they know the type of work practice that it takes. And in addition to that, I changed a little bit the curriculum to include music, classical music that is closely related to the hearts of the community. And that program has been very successful. So now in the conservatory, we are, much more closely to what the community looks like. So I'm very proud of that accomplishment.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You're trying to tap into the cultural heritage of your demographic. Am I understanding that?
Yes.
Like
Yes, that's correct.
Underrepresented for composers.
Correct.
In the last couple of years, we have that movement of the BIPOC, as we call it, sort of effort to bring to light and bring to our ears and our audiences music by wonderful, masterful composers that were never recognized, not Beethoven or Bach, but nothing against me. they're my models. However, and whether we're discussing Latinx composers or Black composers, white composers, like we put those labels, but what we mean is communities that didn't have the opportunity and people that didn't have the opportunity were not given the opportunity because of a bias too very often to be recognized.
That's correct. Yeah. And also, I noticed that, for example, in the conservatory, which is in Newark, I sometimes was able to get very, very talented students from the community interested in the program. But after a few months, they lost interest. So I noticed that there was something that was lacking in the typical conservatory training. So we, in adding music that the community can relate to, and see, my uncle, my father, my mother could have written this. It's like it's music that can relate. Or this sounds like, that the rhythms are part of that merengue that I listen to. So there's a lot of heartfelt, and all of a sudden, doing that, bringing that into the curriculum, the interest skyrocketed. Now when we bring people from the community into the conservatory, not only they stay, but they bring their families, they bring everybody to the concerts, and it looks more like what we need to be doing, supporting and the community with music.
I will stop the share there. There is another 20 minutes of wonderful, very insightful observations by Dr. Molina, and I will put that on Facebook for anybody who is interested to check it out. But I wanted to start with that, and whoever wants to start, like some of your most important projects that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, that promote and embrace multiculturalism, that promote putting underserved, under-recognized composers and performance into our canon. We would like to take it first. Any raise of hand? Should I just choose? Okay, Anyanga.
All right, here we go. No, I think that this conversation is super important and very interesting to have. I can tell you, as somebody who grew up in Germany, studied in Austria and Finland, and then moved to the US, that I've seen several different aspects of this topic. And now teaching here in South America and Colombia, it's yet another layer, a very important layer of lack of diversity, but absolute availability of resources and of talent. So the very first thing that stands out to me, of course, as you know, that in Europe we are not necessarily that sensitized yet to featuring underrepresented composers, especially underrepresented musicians. I was always the only one. you know. And then whenever I showed up with my violin somewhere, people asked me, why don't you play the jazz piano, or why don't you sing jazz? Like that would be the only category I should have access to as a person who looks like me. And so that it's very difficult to remove those stereotypes. Then going to the US, I found that thankfully to Professor Charles Castleman at the Eastman School of Music, I was introduced gradually but very strategically to repertoire by underrepresented composers of all sorts of backgrounds. So I learned about Jose White, Afro-Cuban composer, fantastic violinist, graduate from Paris Conservatoire. But his works are rarely played. But we know Vieuxtemps and Wieniawski. But we don't appreciate the works that we have in people like Jose White, Chevalier de Saint-Georges, of course, who's not the Black Mozart, but Mozart actually is his junior. Chevalier de Saint-Georges was older, and he was a master violinist, a master violin teacher. And then going on through to William Grant Still, Coleridge Taylor Perkinson, discovering the violin canon that these people have established that can hold par to Paganini and composers of that rank. So I was very grateful for receiving this wide scope introduction to underrepresented composers and also women composers in music through my time at Eastman, and Professor Castleman was instrumental in making this happen. So once I took the position here in Bogota, Colombia at the Javeriana University, I wanted to make it a point to feature resources. You know, the diaspora of the Colombian people features Afro-Colombian people, indigenous Colombian people. There is so many ethnic groups that are native to this country and this continent, and they are here. They're producing gorgeous music. They are recognized and yet not really featured. So I made it a point to always connect, for example, as the head of chamber music, to connect my chamber music groups with performing the compositions of the students that are in the composition program, or performing underrepresented female Colombian composers of African ancestry in their competition program for the semester for string quartets, for example. So we've established that to help promote, first of all, the resources that are here. I'm not Colombian, but I have appreciation for the variety of talent that is here. Secondly, I also work with the Universidad de los Andes since last year, which has a strong focus together with the U.S. Embassy on featuring and furthering the education of Afro-Colombian students, specifically from the coastal region, where there's the most inequality seen, specifically for people of my skin tone and a lot darker. And it is very unjust how they're still being treated after having built the entire coastal area. And the musical talent that comes from the coastal area is incredible. The students are so innately connected with the music, with the Colombian rhythms, all the different influences. So the compositions that come out of these kids are incredible. Then we have students that play fantastically. They can perform these compositions. And so it's a symbiotic approach to making sure we introduce, first of all, performing pieces by everybody, Mozart and Juan Antonio Cuellar. There's no difference in the attention that we give to them in the class. We have to work on them just as much as Mozart, Brahms, Bach, whatever it is. And I think that's the first thing, to change the mentality of how we look at things. The second thing that is very important is then also to include the fact that here in Latin America, I've seen this many times where people say, oh, you're from Germany, so why did you come here to Colombia? We're not as organized as Germany. This is very painful. This is a very painful self-inflicted stereotype or self-absorbed stereotype where a minority will accept the stereotype imposed on them by another nation or by other people, by a third party. And so I think it is important for us foreigners, when we come here, to treat the Colombian resources, for example, with respect and say, okay, let's feature the music that you have. And maybe I can also here and there introduce an African-American composer that I like, or an Afro-German composer. And you can then see and help open the eyes that there is no subpar. It's just different. And when your own people are starting to appreciate their own history, their own music, it will be much easier to unlock the blockage that also many times the cultural scene has towards their own things. It's not always importing. Sometimes we need to celebrate from within first, or actually always, and then we can adapt foreign elements in. And so I've tried my best to support this kind of development here in the last 7 years I've been here. And I think we've laid a good path. And now we're starting to introduce Afro-Caribbean composers from the UK, from the US, from Germany, from Austria. So slowly but surely we're mixing it. But I thought here for me, for my conscience, it was very important to first start with what is here, re-represent what is here, and then open to the rest of the world. And I hope that will permeate the mentality of generations of music students and future music teachers. And that will then also affect how they teach their music curriculum. So it's been exciting, but it's quite the road still.
I think those are amazing projects. Well, I've known you, so I know how driven and dedicated you are to what you do. And what sticks to, like from what you just said, the two things are, I would like to point out, I like that you're approaching the problem both ways. Promoting what is their own, the native, the indigenous, the real talent, the real quality that already exists within a people. And then from nurturing the outside, the classical that we know, the canon that we know, but making it accessible, making the people of Bogota, the people of Colombia, able to perform and play something that may be outside their culture, but it's a part of the whole. What is always very interesting to me is that when we don't have self-worth, if we don't believe in what we already have, like you said, accepting stereotypes, then not only we cannot really adopt something from outside, but we reject our own as well. So it's almost like being in that kind of limbo. And I find it fascinating the way that you approach this through composition. This is like maybe for me the most effective activism. You know,
I don't know if it's so much activism, but I try to be respectful because I want to treat people, me, the same way.
Yeah.
So this is not my culture. These are not my people. I don't know them, you know, but I'm a foreigner coming in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times there has been damage done, and I've seen it firsthand, by foreigners coming, not understanding the culture, and then damaging something in there.
Or imposing their own, right? Imposing a culture.
Imposing and perhaps being not sensitive to the needs of how to approach things. And I just want to put one clarification there. What I was saying is we're adapting later on the pieces by Afro-American composers into the canon. The Colombian canon of classical music training or academic music training is very rigorous. It starts from Mozart, Bach, all the way to the traditional, right? And many of them have also studied outside of the country. So that is even a more difficult part because it's bringing back that perhaps that stereotype back in here after having been outside or not wanting to come back to Colombia. So I think it's a tricky feat, and I understand there's many perspectives, many layers that I might not be privy to because I did not grow up here. I did not spend all my life here. But I think it is important always to come back and try to improve and contribute.
May I ask you something? Have you experienced also like the people from Colombia, as you said, rigorous training of the classics early on, going outside and coming back? Have you? I experienced that in Greece. That's why I'm kind of trying to communicate it. Those Colombians that would come back with our classical quote unquote education, have you experienced that they also look down on their own? at their own culture, their own folklore, their own roots and wealth of of musical culture. Is that a phenomenon in Colombia, or is it something that just doesn't exist there? They would always like respect and promote.
You know, I always say everything exists everywhere. You know, I can't speak for everybody. For my own experience within like the two Ivy League universities of Colombia that are here, it's not the case. There's a strong focus on having Colombian traditional music ensembles, have Colombian jazz ensembles, Afro-Colombian jazz ensembles, etc. And also a lot of the composers that are contemporary and still living are highly respected and highly featured, but they are not featured in the canon of the education. They are featured in the concert series of Banco de la República, and there the bank is featuring that composer one evening, and then it sits there. It's great for visibility and awareness and learning. That's how I learned about it, going to concerts. But it doesn't go hand in hand yet by implementing it into the canon of the academic training.
Yes,
But it
it's more of a
can
token.
be.
It's more of a token instead of an actual. It's more like a special project and not something continuous.
It's more like a thing for the culturally curious audiences outside of the university, but it did not make it into the academic rigorous context, if I'm making myself a little bit more clear.
Thank you. Gabby, would you like to take it on?
Sure. I'm gonna take on from what Ayango was like talking about, just because I serve in different committees, and I'm board member from different nonprofit organizations, and this is something that I am very passionate about and like having to always push for, because I was definitely not exposed to a lot of the repertoire that I know. I happened to get one of my assistantship at the music library at my school, and because I like research, I just kind of got to know all this music that is not in our curriculum, and understood that well, there's like all the society, all the history, and which are bigger issues that we could talk about for days, and probably don't have the time to do today in 90 minutes, but that are affecting so much the way that we are educated, even here in the United States. And so I'm always trying to see what can I do to change the narrative, right? And I think Aniango, you're right. It's like it's coming now more into programming, but it is not becoming something that is part of our curriculum, which is what I think could be the only change that we can make for something very to be able to see fruits of this change and in education. So I'm always trying to push wherever I go and whenever I have the time for bigger changes, even though sometimes people tell me that I don't have the patience to wait for a change. But I think I'm 35 years old right now, and I've been in the world of music for most of my life because I started when I was 5. And if in 30 years I haven't seen enough change, I feel like I have to be the one trying to make it, right? And if I am in a position and where I can speak up, then I have to do it. So whenever I can, I push for scholarships for people of color that are specifically for these people, not just like another scholarship, but that it requires you to fall into these categories, right? And I know sometimes it's hard to like box yourself in, but from being somebody who didn't have all the opportunities always because of being that, like, then that is what I want to always be working towards, so that the people who are in the underserved communities and on top of that have to deal with the color of the skin and how that affects how people treat you, then you have to try and make a change. I feel like in my time here in Dallas, teaching in the South Dallas area, where a lot of our underserved community are. That's something that I observe. Is especially because a lot of the people in higher up or like in the administration are white and don't seem to sometimes understand what the problem is, and there's a lack of communication. So having to be the person in the middle translating what's the need of the student and how can the administration really reach that need. So always pushing for that. And now in my new role at the Sings organization, which is providing free music education and funding for Black and Latinx musicians, trying to be the voice that highlights those artists who are making and changing the world of music. So I think there's a little bit of like a summary of how I do what I want to see in the music industry in a few years, hopefully in the next 5 years, and not have to wait another 30 years before I see any of the change that I would have liked to have seen and what I call my career now.
Yeah, Louise, Fabiana, are you there? Hello? Hi, I'm mute. Okay, and since we are going to be, hopefully next year, live in Puerto Rico, and the hope is that Puerto Rico becomes that center of promoting underserved, underrepresented repertoire, promoting and helping, nurturing underserved communities and young musicians, and becomes that center of Latin America music, right in the middle of the Caribbean there. We have our two wonderful Puerto Rican artists, and you two have been doing quite a bit. So, Fabiana, Luis, take it away. What is your take on that?
Well, thank you. First, thank you for having us. Thank you for choosing Puerto Rico.
Hey.
We need like this, and we need people.
You know how much I love it,
Wonderful
right?
people like you talking about these important matters in music. From our corner, I'm a voice teacher at the university, and I teach undergrads that are studying education. So those are education voice concentration. Those are my students. And when you talk about like how people don't nurture their, or how they don't value what they have, their tradition, to take it from there in order to respect and maybe engage, to get to know others. That's how I feel sometimes teaching. When you teach classical singing, we teach a standard repertoire that is in mostly Italian, German songs, English songs, and the last one is Spanish song, right?
Yes.
So when I was like thinking about this and teaching, right? When you're teaching the first song, and your first song is Italian because the vowels are pure. Why not use something that you know, something that is part of you, your tradition, and where you're from, to start adding skills that are so what do you say, like so away from what you are? Because bel canto is not that it's like so far away, but why to start with an Italian song if you can start with a Spanish song, a bolero that you have heard, a bolero that you can feel, a bolero that represents who you are? So in that way, I thought maybe I should try this. And that's when I met Luis, and we started to create this class. And it was like, we called it seminar, right? But it was not even part of the curriculum. This was like a chance for them to work with us with another repertoire, taking using bolero and using what I know about vocal pedagogy, and developing chest voice, and developing what I would do when I teach someone an Italian song, but using bolero. So I was teaching the pedagogy part, the technique part, and Luis, that is like so familiar with bolero and all these popular repertoire, was teaching them the style, what to do, how to feel it. So it was like super fun, and we found out that at the end, every time we would do like a new bolero, their technique was even going back. It was improving. They were going to another level. They were not doing just like words and notes and rhythm, but they were performing, and they were so they were so proud of themselves. They were getting this confident, I don't know, way of doing things, that we said, this is why we need to use bolero, you know. So when I presented, and it was not easy, even that when bolero is from here, even I went with this idea to my director at that time, and he said, yes, but we don't teach popular music. We teach classical music. And I said, well, we can discuss this, and I can argue that bolero is like an art song of the Hispanic community. So why not? And he said, well, you know, it's not part of the curriculum. If you want to do it, and if you want to try it. Well, we did it for a year. And I even tried to do a seminar as part of the curriculum, but you know, bureaucracy is difficult to work. And with these things, this could be like a new thing, right? And when you present this to the classical world, is what you say, it's not that important, it's not as valued, it's not, I don't know, they don't want to include it as their canon of teaching. But I found out that for me and for my students, it was a great tool that taught them interpretation, that taught them who they were from, that taught them, I don't know, beautiful songs and beautiful texts and ways, and gave them the opportunity to express themselves in a different way. So I don't know, I think that if you, I mean, I have been listening to boleros all my life, so it's linked to all my memories. I have sang bolero with my dad for forever. So when you believe in something so, and is so in you, is so much better. It's so much. It's easier to communicate it. So so I think that we have to start with each of our cultures, and we have to start with respecting yourself. And in Puerto Rico, not only music, I mean, people here, like even like our political situation, we are a territory. And like when people think about like doing things better, they think, well, they say, well, then go to US and make it, you know, better. And they know how to do things there, and they and it's not that they don't. I mean, I respect that too. I went to US and I studied early music and I studied pedagogy, and I loved it, and I thought it was great. But I don't think we don't have great things to offer, and I don't think that our repertoire is not as great. So I think we need to start changing, and music can be the media to do that, you know, because I was telling you the territory thing, the political thing, because this is how we feel, you know, and here, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to survive here. It's difficult to make a living here, but most, I think the thing is that in our heads is because we are not, we don't deserve it, or we don't, I don't know, like this is what we can do, you know, like there is better. So I think maybe if we can just take the bolero and don't think about all these mental blur that we have, right? And start from there, start loving your music. Maybe we can get, you know, it's a starting point. So I really appreciate what you all are doing all around the world, you know, and I'm trying to do my best with you guys. And no, yeah, I mean, like, you need to know, because at like here we are the weird ones, or we are the I don't know what are they thinking, bolero in a curriculum, you know what I mean, like, and I'm like,
I think,
don't.
Diana, that bolero is a key. Um, Anyango just also mentioned, like, the finding your roots, your own, but the inferiority complex, which is ingrained in people, and it is ingrained through, you know, centuries of injustice and oppression. And we know, okay, that is all there. We know we can spend hours analyzing it, but that's not our point. Our point is that we can change it through music, through art,
Through
through
music, yeah,
little things
yeah,
that we do.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
Luis.
it's the neat thing that
Yeah.
we can start with a bolero, or with a piece by someone that we don't know, and that is great to know, you know. So please, maestro.
Luis, what do you have to say about that? And what do you have to say about the role of academia in all of this?
Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
Can I speak Spanish? I mean,
You can. People will understand you. Even me. I just will not respond in Spanish.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. O sea, bueno, sobre la pregunta que pienso sobre esto y la academia, tengo que contestar inmediatamente que ya no recuerdo. Yo dejé de trabajar hace unos años ya, y no es algo que pase por mi mente todos los días. Dicho eso, yo sí tuve la suerte de pasar por un proceso en el conservatorio acá en Puerto Rico, donde se estaba creando un departamento de jazz y música caribeña que no existía. ¿Me siguen? Y eso fue muy ilustrativo. Si uno se encuentra el estereotipo, uno se encuentra las personas que no necesariamente entienden ni lo que se está tratando de hacer. O sea, que no es ni siquiera por prejuicio o por, no sé, la otra palabra pudiera ser, o por ultra tradición, sino a veces es porque no entienden lo que se está trayendo, ¿no? Y es posible que eso sea que ese sea el elemento principal ante la dificultad que se pueda tener para integrar algo que no es nuevo, pero que no se estaba integrando. Ahí voy con lo que estaba comentando. Añango es tu nombre, ¿verdad? Ok, lo estoy mencionando correctamente, ¿verdad?
Perfecto, perfecto.
Ok. Eh, yo pasé por esa experiencia hace años ya, eso fue en el 2004, o sea, ya van casi 20 años. Pude ver el resultado, pude ver lo que se hizo bien, lo que no se hizo tan bien, pude ver cómo se desarrolló, pude ver las dificultades que pudieron haber integrando cosas nuevas, pero yo pienso que es una conversación que se ha dado, que se ha dado por mucho tiempo. Esto no es de ahora, esto es de siempre. O sea, esto siempre va a estar presente. Nunca se va a solucionar de la manera que uno quiere, pero cada generación se encarga de aportar y subir un escalón, y subir un escalón. Dicho eso, como todo es tan subjetivo en términos artísticos, la música que yo entiendo que es fabulosa y que tiene elementos técnicos musicales que hay gente que no ve, como por ejemplo el bolero. Hay otras personas que entienden que no necesariamente contiene los elementos exclusivos que pueden dar para estudiarse a nivel superior. Todo eso es muy subjetivo, muy subjetivo. Por lo tanto, no creo ni siquiera que haya que defenderlo. Yo lo que pienso es que simplemente hay que hacerlo. Cuando usted lo hace, cuando usted toma la acción, luego puede suceder entonces la documentación. ¿Ves? Pero con la acción, cuando hacemos esa música y la hacemos, ¿verdad? Ay, se me fue la palabra. Con la convicción de que estamos dando una aportación artística de valor. Simplemente lo que hay que hacer es actuar y esperar la reacción. Y la reacción va a definir cuál es el camino. ¿Okay? No es tan difícil como parece, quiero decir. Pero sí es importante que haya acción. Antes de querer cambiar algo, no, antes de yo pretender que alguien haga algo, yo lo hago primero. ¿Okay? Yo lo hago primero. Una vez yo lo haga, esos otros que yo quiero que lo hagan también, tienen el criterio ahora de decidir, ¿ves? Si es lo que quieren hacer o no quieren hacer. Y eso yo creo que aplica a todo. Aún así, eh, todo lo que ustedes han mencionado en términos sociales, Fabiana habló en términos políticos, cosas muy ciertas, en términos históricos, en términos tradicionales, más por costumbre que por valor artístico. Se añade igualmente la capacidad de los protagonistas académicos de conocer o entender lo que se está trayendo. ¿Ves? Por eso dije al principio que hay un asunto a veces que no es de mala intención, no es de que yo no quiera, es que yo no entiendo lo que es eso o no lo conozco. ¿Ves? Todos ustedes son personas muy jóvenes y tienen mucho que aportar aquí, pero yo que soy más viejo, si voy atrás, había unos años que en los conservatorios no se podía hablar de música popular, ni de jazz, ni de música folclórica. y menos de música afrocaribeña, y menos de música afroantillana, y menos de música de nada. O sea, y eso pues va, o sea, obligatoriamente va a ir cambiando, va a ir cambiando, va a ir cambiando, va a ir cambiando. En ese sentido, y para terminar ya, en ese sentido, yo creo que no hay que preocuparse tanto por la adopción de las cosas, que creo que Anyango trajo eso a colación, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo van adoptando? Dime.
No, tal vez puede ser malentendido. De la adoptación yo lo veo mucho más cerca como lo de las razas, ¿no? En Estados Unidos en este momento la costumbre es de decir, oh, ¿cómo puedo apoyar a ti para tú te sientes más cómoda? No es mi obligación enseñar a una persona no de ascendencia africana cómo tratar a un humano
Claro.
de igual valor.
Seguro.
Y es lo mismo con la música. Que me preocupa más es que los niños absorben que su música, su historia tiene el mismo valor como cualquier otra.
Seguro que sí.
Y que deben respetarla. Esto es lo único que quiero que se filtra ya a los chiquitos, que están ensayados.
No hay otra manera que no sea así.
No, es por asimilación, ¿no?
Por eso.
Learning by doing.
Correcto. Entonces, por eso es que te digo que hay que hacerlo, ¿no?
Eso.
Hacerlo. Entonces, tú entiendes que tal estilo musical.
Sorry, Luis, Fabiana, can you translate with him a little bit so that our audience also can understand a little more, like every now and then summarize a little bit of what he's saying for a non-Spanish audience?
I can do it. I can do it. No, I can do it in English in a single sentence. No problem. No problem.
I do I can say it.
Go ahead. I have no problem with that. I'm just saying, you got to do what you want to teach. Okay. So if you want any style of music to step up from your likeness, okay, you just have to present it. You don't even have to explain too much, okay? You just have to present it. And as Anyango was saying, you start with the children. You start early, and you'll see the fruits of your labor in 10 years, which is not even a full generation. It's just 10 years. They go like that. But we have to start, you know. We have to start, and we have to show what we do. That's all I'm saying. It's just
we have a couple of questions here from our audience. In an ideal world, how would you like these underrepresented composers and performers elevated in traditional musical settings, orchestra programming and performance? I think Luis touched upon that in Spanish a lot, about doing it, including it in every venue, in every media, in every genre. I will let you answer this now. How would you like to see the public educated about these composers and these musics outside the special program, outside that special program? And then how do we push against the mentality that everything outside the canon is lesser?
Anatolia, can I talk about this? How would you like the public educated about these composers? Because that's literally what I just said, but in Spanish. If you guys don't mind. This is what my issue is at the moment. When I get this from well-meaning colleagues, and this is not a diss to anybody, but they come up to me, non-African ancestry colleagues come up to me and say, how can I make you as a Black classical violinist and conductor and female more comfortable in the board meetings, etc.? And it's like, it's not my job to teach you how to treat me as an equal. We were equal before you were aware of George Floyd, before you were aware of how much we suffer. I myself was attacked in Germany on the street My mom and I, we were in the hospital because people in the broad daylight at 1 p.m. decide to beat you. Why? It's not my job to educate you how to be a decent human being. It's not my job to educate you in respecting other musical opinions. What I can do is share with you what I love about this piece of music. What I can do is share with you what I love about your culture that I believe you should check it out. And that's that. The audience, what they have to do is come with an open mind and maybe listen, read what there is to read, and ask questions. But this is the issue. I think we need to be proactive as citizens and not wait that one of the other people educates us on how to treat the piece or the human. That is my biggest pet peeve at the moment, and I think it's important that we don't assume the obligation to make the other person comfortable. We're just sharing our art. We're sharing what we admire about the art or about ourselves. But it's not my duty to make the other person a decent human being. That's my point.
I was gonna say, just following up on what everyone is saying, that's why for me the teaching artists field is so important nowadays, because the main reason why this field was created was to educate audiences in a meaningful way. So a lot of what I do, even when I do my programming, and if you watched my lecture yesterday, is I tell you what I know about the composers and what I know about the music that made it mean something to me. Like if the composer was disabled, I am a disabled person, so that made it relevant to my life, and it made that composer more human. So I bring that to the table because it's gonna make that composer important to whoever is disabled in the audience. So I think that's something that it kind of infuriates me sometimes, that we're not taught in conservatories, right? Like I went to conservatory all the way until like I came to do my doctorate, and that's something that is not in the curriculum. Most conservatories expect you to like go up and just like play, but nobody knows, right? If somebody just step into the concert hall from the street and has no idea who the composers are, they're gonna leave just as they came in because they have no idea, they don't understand. But if I take 5 lines to say, why did I program this music, and why is it there, why is it important to me, is they're gonna stay because they want to know what's coming after, even if the music is full of just like noise contemporary music, right? But at least it's gonna mean something. It really is, right? So it's like we need to, that's the only way that we're gonna change the narrative, right? And I love what you said, Luis, and I know that you're older, and I love everything that you have provided to our panel. But I think for me, if you are in a position of power, you have to do something. Like this is the only way that we're gonna change it, right? Like I think we have to. The only reason why all of my students know about women composers is because I brought it to them, right? It's not in any of the classical music repertoire for flute, right? Like it's barely now we see it in other festivals. But if you really look at any repertoire, is not there, right? But then we have all of these composers, even in the Baroque period, that were as good as C.P. Bach and work in the same court that he worked, but nobody knows them. So you have to do extra research to be able to get access to this information, right? But if you as an educator are able to bring it to the table to those people who wouldn't otherwise have access to it, right? Then again, you're paying thousands of dollars to go to music school, because music school here is not free like it is in many of our countries, right? So you pay literally thousands of dollars to go to school, and in a way you're getting robbed because they're not giving you the information that can make you better. I mean, it's going to make you a better human being, it's going to make you a better citizen, it's going to make you a better musician that's going to have more audience because you're going to be making something more meaningful out of your art. So that I think that's something I wanted to.
Gabby, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you said something very important. You said when you are when you are in a position of power, you got to do something.
No, when you're not.
Oh, when you're
Right?
not. No.
When you're in a position of power, you have to do something.
When you are,
Claro.
you said, oh, sorry.
Okay. So let me add to that. Whenever you do things, you are in a position of power. So don't wait.
No, but not everyone is allowed to do things, because I have had that problem even throughout my career of like facing they're saying no, you cannot program this music because it's not in the canon, so it cannot be in your recital, or it cannot be your topic of research, right? So you have to face that and try again. I mean, like, yeah, I'm stubborn and like some people don't like it, but that's the only way that you can move
Well, yeah, that experience, it just opened your mind, you know, saying, okay, then we got to fix this, you know, and that's why I'm talking about changes in a generation step, you know,
Yeah.
10, 15 years, everything's gonna be better. Okay, everything's gonna be better because you all are acting out. You all are out there, you are doing things, you suffer those experiences, you know, they don't bring nothing to the table, that kind of attitudes. Okay, so you are all empowered to change things with reason and with good faith. So I'm just saying this, I wouldn't worry so much because everything is in good hands with you. I just got all the faith.
You believe in it.
I got all the faith in what you're doing. So I have no worries. Everything is gonna be great. Saying that, we gotta go, okay? But it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to share this with you, and we hope to meet soon again, okay?
I have to say, I have a couple of questions for you guys here. They have to do more with. I like that question. Do you all have any method books of repertoire collections that unite the different genres that we can use to introduce Latin music to young students, especially students who are not Hispanic?
Yes, there's a very common book around.
Mhm.
Which has songs, you know, just a bunch of songs. Okay, it's called the Latin Real Book.
Mhm. Excellent.
You can always start with that. Okay.
Excellent. That's an answer. That's a great answer. Anything from you? I mean,
Yeah, I would say for violin solo caprices or beginner violin Suzuki style music, there is a wonderful collection put together by Rachel Barton Pine. It's two volumes of songs, children's songs by composers written from Africa mainly, converting their children's songs. So the equivalent of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but the African version of it. Look her up, Rachel Barton Pine, and you will find it on her website very easily. It's called, I believe, the Black Composer Collective, something like that. And she has 2-volume books for violin solo and violin and piano, and it's for the youngsters, exactly where we can change the chip. We can't hear you, Tolia.
in a minute, we need to leave the live feed, but we can definitely continue on discussion and discuss amongst yourselves on some. It's such an interesting conversation. So this conversation can continue. Just we will post the rest of it on Facebook later. Because it needs to go off the live feed on the Facebook. It's still Zoom and still recording. So please.
You have until 3 on that one, Anatolia, so just keep going.
We have another 15 minutes of conversation. So or 10. So anybody who would like to offer any closing statements about what they're doing right now, this has been just the beginning of many conversations, but as Luis said, we shouldn't leave it at conversation. As Gabi is doing it, and Yago are doing, and Fabiana is doing, it needs to be action. Definitely, because we can discuss the night away, but at the end of the day, it needs to be done, and maybe even with small steps. And whatever mistakes we make, they come from a pure heart, and that's what the Puerto Rico Collaborative Piano Institute and the foundation, the Diaz de Moral Foundation, is striving to do in Puerto Rico. And so maybe that is the lightning rod today, this panel discussion. And these people, I'm hoping, will be some of the people involved in that effort, in that movement, in that new festival, new way of thinking. We do have role models like the Sphinx organization. I have to say that the Sphinx organization gave me my first, hope. Like I started feeling, oh, I'm not crazy thinking this way. They're actually doing it for some years now. But if we all connect together, and we share resources and support each other, forget the antagonistic nature of our profession at times, and support the efforts that are valuable out there, I think we have a chance for, as Luis said, just do it, a better future. It's already getting better. Maybe faster though. I want it to be a little faster if possible. Anybody?
No, I would just like to say thank you so much for having me. This discussion was so interesting to be a part of and hear different aspects. I think what I've seen, and this gives me a lot of hope and a lot of motivation, is that whatever I've had the opportunity to present to my students of chamber music or private students, violin students, whatever I offer, I feel that especially these young generations right now that are just in their undergraduates or very young in their masters, they are very open-minded, they're very quick and eager to just move forward and discover new things. So it gives me a lot of hope that we're potentially exponentially speeding up how we can course correct. So to me, I like to always offer to my students not a problem and say, look, this is an underrepresented composer. Nobody plays them, so you're going to play them. I wouldn't want to play them then either. No, what I try to do is to say, look, this is a great piece of music. It's not often played. Check out the composer. Find the recording. If you can find one that's not me, listen to it, and let me know if you want to do it. And you know what? 150% the response was always, yes, I want to do it. Where can I find more? Can I interview this composer? What can I do? And that gives me hope, because I think these new generations are doers and they don't see problems first. They see opportunity. And that gives me a lot of hope. So thank you for everything you guys are all doing. And it's so inspiring to me. And sometimes I feel alone in what I'm trying to do. And it's really important to also listen to you and know that there are some mentors out there I can bug for advice.
Definitely. Thank you all. Gabby, any closing statements?
I will, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm very reachable. Actually, it's very easy to find me on social media because that's my main job, being on social media and being a social media manager for artists. Just continue advocating for what you do and helping your students and trying to change the music industry, which has so much to give. But just thank you for having me, and this was a great conversation today.
Luis, Fabiana.
From us, thank you. We are so grateful that that you decided Puerto Rico was your place.
It's not me. There
I
are
know.
Darwin, and that's the
Wait till you
foundation.
can come.
I just jumped on the wagon. You know how much I love Puerto Rico.
I think you will enjoy it so much. We have very talented people and
And a rich culture, a
Yeah.
very rich culture.
and we, you know what, like when I went to US to do my stuff, what one day I came back and I said they need to know about all these people, they need to. And so thank you because this is the people they like I want them to know about, and I want them to know what they're doing and interesting things, it's not just
The same.
everyday thing. So thank you so much for having us. We hope you enjoy the Bolero concert.
Yes.
That
That's
is
on the
coming up.
17th in the evening of June 17th, this coming Thursday. It is a wonderful concert. I keep singing all the songs now. Thank you all who have our attendees, people on Facebook, on the live feed who watch this. This is a very long conversation. We have a lot of things to not to discuss and highlight, because we need to also talk about the specific projects and their difficulties and their challenges, but also their successes on the ground. Much like Puerto Rico Collaborative Piano Institute is going to be in Puerto Rico. It's been a pleasure. It's an honor, it's a privilege to have you all here to share your talents, your passion, your activism, your artistry with the world. I hope we will continue this conversation in the future, and we will continue with deeds, with action, and more programs, and putting our, what is that expression? Putting our something where our mouth is? I cannot remember that expression.
Putting your money where your mouth is.
We have no money, but it's okay. Thank you all. It's been an absolute pleasure. Join us, I think, in a couple of hours for our evening, is it our evening concert? I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me. Our evening concert today is always the competition highlights. So if you have a little bit of time, please do join us. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.